If you're on the fence about having children, I must say that the book I'm going to be talking about today, if you read it, may only further reinforce some of the doubts that you may be having. I do not want Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder to be the reason why I decide to not have children, but it certainly did not add any plus sign in the pro column for having children. This book really encompasses all of the fears that you may have about motherhood, whether it's worrying about not being a good enough mom or worrying about the potential resentment you may deal with over having kids and the loss of your dreams. And on top of all those things and all the responsibilities that come with motherhood, our main character has an additional whopper of a problem that she is dealing with. She is becoming a dog. At night, she's going out doing doggy things. She's physically turning into a dog. We have a lot that we're grappling with in this book. Hello, welcome to my channel, Dirty Little Literate. My name is Leah, and I like to talk about books that are weird, bizarre, disturbing, awkward, gross, and today's book is certainly bizarre. You may have also heard of this book because they recently made it into a movie on Hulu. I watched the movie after this book. It's alright. I would say the book is better. This is a good book. This will not be as disturbing as a lot of my videos are, but I will say, just a trigger warning, animals are killed in this book. But that's pretty much the primary concerning component. So let's get into it. We never learn the name of the main character in this story. She is simply referred to as Nightbitch. She's referred to as Nightbitch because her and her husband have a bit of an ongoing joke, calling her Nightbitch because that's when her rage seems to boil over in the night, her rage at motherhood and how her life has turned out. It all boils over, and I certainly don't think her husband realizes that's what all the rage is due to, but she gets quite snippy, thus Nightbitch. Now, she has a toddler, 2 years old, and she is a stay-at-home mom, and she sacrificed her job working in an art gallery. She was an artist who was making some strides in the art world, and she tried to do the whole working mom thing at first after her son was born, and it was just not working out. The daycare where he was staying, he seemed really unhappy. He would cry all the time. She thought the ladies who worked there were kind of awful. She really missed him, and so she did not have an endless reserve of energy and motivation to do everything in the world, have a full-time job, and take care of her son. And she thought she could do it all because we are so progressive today, but you only have so much to give. And so she struggled with it, and she eventually decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And this was her suggestion, and her husband agreed to it. And he was the one who made more money, which is why it made sense for him to keep working. And at first she thought that that was gonna be just good and fine. But in these 2 years since her son has been born, the resentment, it's so high, so very high. And honestly, to me, her life sounds miserable. I don't know that I would necessarily be the ideal candidate to be a stay-at-home mom, but her life is the same, the exact same every day in terms of everything she needs to do for her son: breakfast, baths, nap time, going to the library to listen to them have their little book babies sessions. And she kind of wants to pull her hair out. She doesn't even feel like an adult. She feels like she's dumb now. She hasn't had a serious adult conversation in quite some time. She feels like she completely lost herself. As an artist, she was quite creative, very progressive, had some kind of weird sort of art exhibitions and displays going on. And so she really had found her voice previously before having a child. And now that she has a child, she doesn't even really know who she is anymore. Most of the time, she feels like she's living the life of a single mom because her husband travels for work, and so he is usually out working for the entirety of the week, doesn't come home at night. He only comes home on the weekends. And so she's living that single mom life 5 days a week, and then when he is home, he's just been so tired from work, so he doesn't really do much to contribute or give her a break. So she's she's 24/7 mommying and she's exhausted, and you just get all the like tantrums and neediness from the 2-year-old, which, like, to be fair, you're 2, I get it, you should be needy, but like it's just so like, I don't know, I feel it in my core. I feel like this child is annoying me specifically just reading this book. And you really feel for her because on one hand, she really does love being a mom. She loves her son so much, and that's very clear. But she's trying to balance, how can I love my son this much and not be miserable and still feel like I have my own identity at the same time? And she's having a hard time finding that balance. Amidst all her struggles with motherhood, Nightbitch starts noticing some concerning developments with her body. So at first, she notices that there is a large patch of hair that's growing on the back of her neck, and she doesn't quite know what to make of it. And shortly after, she starts noticing that her canine teeth start sharpening. And at this point, she's like, I feel like I'm turning into an animal. Like, why am I hairy and sharp teeth? Like, I look like a dog. She makes a joke to her husband, like, I think I'm turning into a dog. And so it's kind of like a playful little thing they have going, similar to Nightbitch. And it does not stop there. Her body begins to undergo even more bizarre changes. The one that really got me, that grossed me out, is she seems to have what may be a cyst on her tailbone. And she prods it a little bit and it opens up and there's like a clump of hair inside. And she's like pulling it, as one would do with an ingrown hair. You know, they can come out for quite a while and be long, but this is a whole blob of it that's coming out for a while. And when she sees it, she can't help but think, I have a tail. This is a tail. And you know, any one of these things, whether it's the teeth, the hair on the back of the neck, the hairy tail cyst, individually you could explain them away, but the fact that she's having all of these things happen in such a short period of time, she definitely doesn't think this is all just natural hormonal changes. The other doozy is she starts getting additional nipples to where she ends up having 8. And they're all up and down her stomach. So at this point, she's like, 100%, I am turning into a dog, but I can't voice this concern in a legitimate way because my husband's going to think I'm crazy. So she has to start doing some independent research. You know, she's really up in Google searching everything under the sun and not finding much that's very helpful to her. So she goes to the library, and looking around, she's able to find a book that is about mythical women, but it is a non-fiction book, and it's written by this woman, Wanda White, who supposedly specializes in studying women who, you know, whether they're like werewolf type women or just these otherworldly type supernatural beings, but she's saying that she's seen a lot of these types of women in her studies traveling all over the world. Nightbitch is very comforted by this book because she's thinking, if this is coming from a scientific viewpoint, then I don't need to feel crazy, but also I need some answers. And she very much feels like her transformation into a dog is connected to motherhood. These animalistic feelings of rage are really coinciding with her rage over motherhood. And so she's linking the two. She doesn't feel like she's just becoming this supernatural being. She feels like motherhood is propelling her into it. As all of these changes are happening, you see that she doesn't really have any women in her life that she can relate to. She takes her son to book babies at the library where these stories are read and sung to toddlers, and she's interacted with some of the other moms there, and she's honestly tried to avoid interacting with the other moms there at all costs because she hates the idea of befriending someone just because they too are a mom. She feels that's very reductive of their identities. If there's like a cool, amazing, hilarious, funny, awesome mom, then sure. She doesn't want motherhood to be the propelling force behind their friendship. And a lot of these book baby moms are very peppy, spunky, soccer mom energy type women who she does not feel connected to. She keeps trying to avoid them, and they just keep trying to latch onto her that much harder. You can tell that they are trying to get her to join in this multi-level marketing scheme that they have, this pyramid selling of herbs that supposedly change your life. And she's just feeling more and more alone because she can't share what's going on with her with anyone. She tries to connect with some of her friends from the art world, but those interactions make her feel very insignificant because they have all these amazing things going on and she does not. Many of them have children but decided to get caretakers or use daycare for their children, and so they look like they have it all. They have motherhood and they have an amazing career, so that leaves her feeling pretty shitty as well. After she's gone through a lot of the physical changes of turning into a dog, we see that during the night, this is when Nightbitch really comes into her own, and she leaves the house, and as she does, we are understanding that she undergoes an even more intense physical transformation. And she's seeing a lot of dogs in her neighborhood that will come to her yard, like packs of dogs who seem really into her, and they're sort of encouraging her to go out into the night with them. At one point, there's a scene in which this group of dogs is tearing off her clothes with their mouths to get her fully naked so that she can then undergo this physical transformation into which she really truly does turn into a dog and explores the night. And when we get her perspective as a dog, it is very animalistic, of course. It's very based on the urges a dog would have. It's not complicating things too much. There's not all the crushing resentment involved with motherhood. It's let me smell some stuff. Let me go to the yard of the neighbor I hate and shit on his lawn, and let me go kill rabbits. That's the life, and she feels such a deep sense of satisfaction with this life. It's kind of cute. If you know dogs, just their mannerisms, like one thing my dog always loves to do is go outside in the grass and roll around and get disgusting, and the satisfaction that I can see in his face is represented in the words she's using, and you could just feel the joy that she has from like rubbing these nasty smells all over her. And so her life as a dog feels very spot on with what you would expect. After her nights out, she will have to go home and shower off all the mud and blood because she's killing animals and like eating them, and she's doing some gnarly stuff. And throughout this time, as she's embracing her dog lifestyle, because when she goes out, my understanding of it is that she's like turning more into a dog when she's leaving the house at night, but when she comes home, she looks like herself, although the more doggish version with the sharp teeth and extra hair and nipples and whatnot. But as she's becoming more of a dog, these canine-like urges are overtaking her in her day-to-day life. She will go out to eat with her son and find herself so intoxicated by the smell of the meal that she's eating that she will just lean down and eat the whole thing with her face, doesn't use her hands, silverware, nothing. And her son thinks this is an amazing, fun game of playing doggy, so he'll do it too. And then she'll realize what she's doing and see that everyone's staring at them as she has just gone into full-on, like, dog chow mode. Her son really loves these doggy games, and they are playing them more and more as these dog-like urges are overtaking her more and more. There's one scene in which she is trying to connect with a friend from the art world, and they're at the park, and she has her son there too. And in the middle of this woman talking, she sees a squirrel, and her whole demeanor changes, her body language. She has to get up, and she, like, you know, when dogs kind of freeze, like, okay, can't scare the squirrel off, and then all of a sudden she's like, squirrel, and like trying to get her son's attention so he can go get the squirrel because they must drop everything and tend to this right now. And the friend is kind of shocked by it, and she continues to have these outbursts in public that become less and less socially acceptable, and she's just feeling further and further disconnected from the people in her day-to-day life. After she goes out on her nighttime excursions, she comes home feeling so much better. She feels more well-rested. She feels invigorated, and a lot of the resentment she'd been feeling is starting to disappear. So it seems like these little Nightbitch nights are doing her a lot of good, and it is actually positively impacting her marriage. Her husband still does not know what's going on, but Their sex life is suddenly improving. They have more playful banter. It just seems like the overall vibe. He doesn't know that being married to a dog is improving his marriage, but it absolutely is. There are a couple instances in which she really loses it, and she's no longer presenting in a way that is okay with other people. She goes out to dinner with a group of the art world friends that she hasn't gotten to spend much time with in a while, and they're at this nice dinner, and over dinner she's feeling useless and unimportant compared to everyone, and the rage is boiling up inside her again. And during this dinner she starts getting up, barking and growling at the patrons and starts shouting these vulgar, weird, random phrases. And it's one of those situations where you're like, okay, I guess I can never show my face in front of these people again. And as bad as that is, you know, nobody got hurt. The kicker, the part that really got me, that, you know, warning about something bad happening to an animal, albeit animals are being killed throughout the story. You know, she's catching them, she'll bring them to the back door. As she becomes a dog, she seems to hate their pet cat more and more. And her resentment and rage is still there. It's not like becoming Nightbitch got rid of it. It's that when she can be Nightbitch, it is healing, you know, that morning and day after, but then everything starts coming back. And so as she's getting overwhelmed with her son, she's getting overwhelmed with the cat, and she was like making food and had a knife, and she just can't handle her irritation with the cat. She stabs it and splits it open. It makes me so sad. That's your pet cat. And she kills the cat in the kitchen while her son is like in the living room, and he comes in and sees that this cat, its organs are everywhere, and she started like putting the cat in her mouth and like throwing it around. There's fur everywhere. And so her son sees this, absolutely traumatizing. And because of how much they've been doing the doggy games, her son asks if they should eat it. Mind you, she's been feeding her son raw meat. She's been going to the store getting pounds and pounds of raw meat, feeding it to her son. And her son and her have also been eating and drinking out of doggy bowls. She's even gotten her son to sleep in a dog crate. He sleeps way better in the dog crate than he does in bed with her. And mind you, they hide all of this stuff for the most part when her husband comes home. He knows they're playing doggy games, but I don't think he realizes like the full extent of it. But because her son has gotten so used to being a dog and eating this raw meat, he asks if they can eat the pet cat that she just murdered. And this really is a wake-up call for her. She sees what this situation must look like. There's blood all over the kitchen. They bury the cat. She makes up an excuse to her husband, like she fell with the knife and it stabbed the cat. Like, you know. But at this point, she's like, okay, I need to get it together. I need to try to be a normal mom. So in order to be the perfect mom, Nightbitch feels that she needs to socialize with the other normal moms, try to be more like them. And mind you, these are the pyramid scheming, herb selling moms. But what we learn is that one day Nightbitch smells the hair of one of the primary moms, Jen. She is the primary herb seller. And she notices the smell of this strawberry shampoo. And she realizes that one of the dogs that she has been interacting with when she's been turning into a dog smells like strawberries. And she seems to think that there are a couple of these women that remind her of a couple of these dogs that she's been interacting with. So in her mind, she's super sure that, oh my gosh, Jen might be a dog too. So part of her, yes, wants to present as normal and get her life together and not be killing household pets. But she's also secretly hoping that Jen will disclose to her that she is also a dog. She does find some comfort in interacting with the other moms. She confesses that she accidentally killed the pet cat, and then we find out that all the other moms are like killing the pet fish, stepping on the pet gerbil, so she doesn't feel quite so alone in that regard. And she even does decide to buy into the herb selling scheme, and she gets a bit closer with Jen, and she actually meets up with Jen alone one day, and Jen says, you know, I'm really hoping I can talk to you about something just because you seem like you would understand. And the whole time she's thinking Jen's about to disclose that she's a dog, and no, of course not. She's disclosing that she's lost so much money in this pyramid scheme and doesn't know how to get out of it. And upon hearing this, Nightbitch actually has a proposition for her. One night, Nightbitch decides to go outside into the backyard because she is thinking about the body of the cat they buried, and she's just wondering, like, ooh, I wonder what it smells like, tastes like now. And so she goes into the backyard, gets naked, she's digging up the cat, putting it in her mouth, doing disgusting things, and then she realizes that her husband is outside watching her. And he's like, oh my gosh, I get it now. You're getting back into art, and this is your performance art, this motherhood as it ties into becoming a dog. And he's really happy for her, as she was just like gnawing on their dead cat naked in the backyard. So quite an understanding man. And at this point we find out that the proposition she had made to Jen was for Jen to become her PR manager, because yes, indeed, she is getting back into the art world, and yes, indeed, there will be a performance piece. And so at first, the performance piece is hosted in front of all of the other herb pyramid scheme mommies, as well as some of her old friends from the art world. And it's this very interesting display in which, you know, they're sitting outside for a while, kind of waiting when anything is going to happen. Then there's some intense music that starts playing, and then all of a sudden Nightbitch comes out and she's moving around like a dog. She's growling at people, she's barking at people, and then suddenly some of the other people start getting naked and acting like dogs. Some people leave and think it's weird, but it's this whole animalistic display. But eventually enough people get freaked out by Nightbitch and have to leave. But she's really immersing herself in her art, and it does seem like the art friends are like, yeah, like I get it. They're feeling it. After this, Nightbitch starts performing her performance art piece on a larger scale for very large crowds who are paying to go see her not only be Nightbitch, but one of the draws of the performance is she is killing animals like bunnies with her mouth in front of people and like shaking them. And not that people want to see the bunnies die, but for them to see how committed she is to this role. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people don't get it. But what everyone is pretty mesmerized by is the fact that she truly moves like an animal. Like, it doesn't seem like someone could contort their body in the way that she is without having like practiced this for many years. And they also note that it seems like the bunnies that are appearing in this space that they're in seem to just be appearing. It doesn't seem like they're being placed there or put there by anyone. So there's this sort of feeling of unreality during the performance. And at the end, she gets this animal in her mouth and she presents it to her little toddler son. And so the savage bond of mother and child, and ultimately in her finding this Nightbitch essence, she's able to connect with her identity as an artist as well as her instincts regarding motherhood. And so she's able to marry these two parts of her together. Now, what's so unclear about this book, at least to me, is I don't know if she's actually turning into a dog or not. The way it's written, a lot of the time, it seems like, yes, she is actually turning into a dog. And a lot of people are commenting like they don't quite understand how she looks the way she does. Like, it doesn't look like fake hair being put on her body. So I feel like we're not supposed to know for sure, but it also doesn't feel like her doing all of this was for the sake of this art piece, because we're there with her as she's really confused, trying to understand what's going on. I don't think she's faking confusion. I think she doesn't understand, and I do think it seems like something's happening to her. So I don't know if it could be like a mental health thing that she then uses as inspiration for this performance art. But I don't know, there are a lot of pieces of it that just feel a bit more literal, but I'm not sure. I can't tell you. I don't know if maybe that's just my interpretation. I don't know if other people have a very definitive view on whether or not this is all in her mind or not, but other people's reactions to her make me feel like it's not all in her mind. I don't know. Upon looking it up, it does look like this book is supposed to be considered magical realism, and that yes, she is indeed turning into a dog, and then also is able to make it performance art. When I first added this book to my list of books to be read, I did not know that it had just been made into a movie, but upon discovering that, I definitely wanted to watch it, waiting until after I had read the book. So I watched the movie yesterday, and I will say it just didn't do that much for me. I think I generally tend to feel that way about books versus movies. I always like the books better, and I'm just not a huge movie person. I don't think it was a bad movie, but had I not read the book, I probably would have thought the whole thing was kind of silly. And if you look online, they say, okay, no, she's not really turning into a dog. She's just using this as a metaphor for her art. And that's how it's being interpreted in the movie. And I think it's weird to have the movie and book be doing two different things when that's like one of the biggest components of the whole story. The whole performance art piece that I described in the book was not the same as what happened in the movie, and I liked that piece of it in the book, so I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. It was fine. The movie was fine. I would definitely say read the book if you're only gonna do one, and I did like this book, and I also didn't even mind too much not knowing with absolute certainty if she was turning into a dog or not, because I think that the book made it clear what the topics are that we are meant to be exploring about motherhood. And sometimes I don't like magical realism when I'm not quite sure what it's meant to be addressing. Sometimes it's just there and it just takes the story in a whole different direction, but you're not sure why. I totally understand why she's turning into a dog and what the metaphor is. And so I think whether or not she's literally turning into a dog, we get the point of what the author is trying to address. So I thought this was a fun book. It has some fun sense of humor to it as well. And I don't love reading books where animals get hurt. And I will say it was mostly the cat was the one that got me. The other ones I didn't feel like were too detailed. I mean, they're still not great, but yeah, if you have issues reading anything where anything happens to animals, not the best book to read. But overall, I would recommend it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.